Hello, and welcome to my channel. My name is Jonathan Cohn, and today I will be doing a different kind of video than I normally do. Today's video is going to be a book haul video. I don't really do book hauls often because I go to the bookstore quite frequently, my local bookstores, and get 1 or 2 books every week or so. And I just build and build and build, and I don't have like a schedule of, okay, I'm going to do it once a month or something. But recently I was going on a trip to Tennessee, and I was able to make a stop at the McKay's bookstore in Knoxville. I have been there one other time. I will include pictures on the screen now of what it looks like in there. It is a wonderful place. I call McKay's the best place on earth. There's a McKay's in Chattanooga, there's McKay's in Knoxville. I know that they're in other parts of the country. Those are the 2 I've been to, and I absolutely love going to McKay's. I think it's a wonderful bookstore. If you can, you should check them out. But I went there, and they have excellent prices and excellent deals on books, and so I got a lot of books, and I thought I would share with you what I got. I'm going to split this up into 3 categories. I got some fantasy books, I got some kind of sci-fi-ish related books, and then I also got some Star Trek specific books. And so I will go through each of those genres and explain what books I got and why I got them. So to begin with my fantasy books, I will talk about the first book I got was The Halfling's Gem. This is the 6th book in the Legend of Drizzt series. You can see right up here I have all the other Drizzt books and the first 5, I should say. And I read the first 5 from about 2018 through 2019. And then in 2020, I read books 4 and 5, and I didn't really care for book 5. I thought book 4 was lots of fun, but book 5 really put a sour taste in my mouth. And I thought maybe I shouldn't continue. And I did a recent video where I asked whether or not I should continue the Forgotten Realms series, and I got a lot of great responses of people saying, yes, I should. And so when I was in the bookstore, McKay's, I found this book and thought, oh, I should grab it. One thing I should say is that I've been searching for this book for a long time and haven't actually found it. I found the later books in the series, I found the earlier books. This specific book, for some reason, is not in the bookstores that I frequent. And also, it's not in the same edition type style of these ones. If I ever have found it, it's like an old edition. So when I was able to find this, it was a reasonable price, and I thought I should get this, and so this will eventually go on my TBR. The next fantasy books I got, it was like a trilogy of fantasy books, and I got it, 1, because I've heard about it and people have recommended it, 2, because I found the whole trilogy and I thought it'd be great to just get the whole thing. And that is the Dragonlance Chronicles, Book 1, Dragons of Autumn Twilight, Book 2, Dragons of Winter Night, and Book 3, Dragons of Spring Dawning. This is a D&D related series, kind of like the Forgotten Realms and the Drizzt books are one set of D&D. This is a different area. I was recommended these books by Feeples. They said with my love of classic fantasy and dwarves and elves and that type of Tolkien-esque feeling, that this would be a type of fantasy I would enjoy. And so I looked at the description and thought, yeah, I should like it. I like the cover art. The cover art on these books is just fantastic. And so I got these all for a reasonable price and picked all of them up. And that is my fantasy haul. That was definitely my smallest amount of books that I got, but it was lots of fun to get. My next area is going to be a science fiction haul, and technically I guess some of these are kind of like science fantasy in the way they're designed, but I'm going to call them science fiction for a couple of reasons. The first thing I'll talk about is the Golden Queen trilogy by Dave Wolverton, including the books The Golden Queen, Beyond the Gate, and Lords of the Seventh Swarm. So Dave Wolverton has written sci-fi and fantasy. He's written a lot of books. Sadly, he passed away earlier this year. I am a huge fan of his writing when he went under the pen name of David Farland when he wrote the Rune Lord series, which is right behind me. It is one of my favorite books of fantasy. It is a fantastic magic system, great villains, everything about it is great. And it's very not much talked about on BookTube or on Goodreads, and I'm trying to change that by drawing more attention to it. And I really enjoy his writing style. And this was an earlier trilogy. I believe this was his first ever trilogy that he wrote in the mid-90s for Tor. And it seems to be kind of fantasy-ish, but also kind of sci-fi-ish. I'm lumping it in as my fantasy or as my sci-fi grouping because this is when he was going under Wolverton was when he did his sci-fi stuff traditionally, and he did Farland for fantasy. This might be more. You might consider this more fantasy, I don't know, but I'm lumping it in here. And I'm looking forward to it. These are shorter books. I like that they're on hardcover. They're shorter books, but they still seem like they're going to be a lot of fun. And so I can't wait to dig into these, and these were all great prices at McKay's. McKay's has great prices all around. I got 20 books at McKay's for only $60, which is a really good deal. So that's the sci-fi trilogy I got. And then I got a book that I technically already have, but I wanted this edition, and it was The Courtship of Princess Leia, also written by David Farland. This is the hardcover of it, and let me see if I can find the paperback so that I can describe how much I dislike it. The paperback... So the hardcover looks more like a romance-type novel. It's Drew Struzan type artwork, and they got Struzan to do another artwork for the paperback, which is this. And this does not convey the good storytelling at all. Yes, there's a rancor involved in the book, but I would not have gone in this direction. I think that this looks like it's trying to appeal to a casual fan. It's like, ooh, look, this like Return of the Jedi, the outfits, which they don't wear these outfits in the book. Let's appeal to that, and let's put a rancor and put some Imperial walkers on there, and it just doesn't work for me. This one, I think, does feel better to the book, even though it is a bit odd. I feel like it's a little bit more true to the aspect of storytelling. And even though, I will be honest, I think this is a very weak book, despite David Farland being one of my favorite authors, I think this is his weakest book that I've read. I still think that I want to respect him and his work, and I like collecting his hardcovers, and this is one of those. And I just love this cover art. So I think that the way that it blends the yellows with the blues, you have her dress with R2-D2, and you have the other characters like Han Solo and another character that I won't spoil on here. It's all great. The only thing it was missing was the Night Sisters, which kind of in hindsight makes sense why they didn't include it, because they get used somewhere else. And then the final sci-fi book I have, which... This is a very, very different type of genre, and this is The Oracle Year by Charles Soule. I have not read much prose by Charles Soule, but then again, he hasn't written much prose. I read some of his Darth Vader comics and some of his Poe Dameron comics, both of which I enjoyed a lot. And I enjoyed reading his novel, Light of the Jedi, which part of the High Republic series, which I thought was brilliant. And so... I've wanted to read, I like his style in that book, and I read the premise of Oracle Year. Basically, a guy is able to predict the future, and then he basically uses that for financial gain. And that just sounds like a fun concept. And so this book I saw, it was also a reasonable price. This was the most expensive book. Despite being a little beat up on the inside, it's the most expensive book of the bunch, but I think it was well worth it because I enjoy Charles Soule's style quite a bit. So now I've talked about my fantasy and my sci-fi specific books. Now I'm going to get into the biggest category, which is the Star Trek books that I purchased. I'm into I love Star Trek reading the books, and I'm into buying as many Star Trek books as I can, especially since these are books that really aren't in print much anymore. So I really have to go to used bookstores or online to find them. Find these in new bookstores. So I'll talk about the next books in a batch because they kind of go together, and that is Vanguard. I found the books Open Secrets, I found the book Declassified, and the book Storming Heaven. I have all of the other books, which you can see behind me, And I wanted to get these 3 books. This completes my collection so I can actually read the entirety of the series, finish it out. I haven't loved the series, but I've been promised it gets so much better by the end, and then it has an epic conclusion. I'm still not bought into it all the way, but I like collecting books, and I'm also a fan of David Mack's writing, and I recently read a book by Dayton Ward that I thought was great, so I'm like, Dayton Ward has potential for me. So I bought these 3 books, and one of them, Open Secrets, I already had a copy of, but it was a trade paperback copy. It was enormous. I think it was large print, which was why it was so big. And it didn't fit with the other books, which were all mass market paperbacks. So that's why I got this. And then, of course, I completed the whole series. So I got Open Secrets, Storming Heaven, and Declassified, which is like a novella collection. So I'm very excited to read these Star Trek books. The next Star Trek book on my list that I got was Before Dishonor by Peter David, by far the most beat-up book that I got. So it was pretty cheap. But this is a book that it is kind of like a prelude to the whole Borg invasion that happens in the Destiny trilogy. And it really shows the direction that the series was going, and it does something with a certain character that blew fans' minds and was whoa, you can't kill that character off. So it was very interesting. So I already know who that character is and how it happens because I've read other Star Trek books with this character. But I'm very excited to see how that happens and see how it unfolds in this book. I've only read one Peter David book before, so I don't know too much about him, but I know this is like a part of Star Trek continuity that I enjoy. The next book is also a prelude to the Destiny trilogy, but this one's much more direct, as it immediately it was written right before it, and that is Star Trek: The Next Generation: Greater Than the Sum by Christopher L. Bennett. I've read one book by Christopher Bennett and enjoyed it. Wasn't amazing, but this premise: 2 characters get married that everyone was like, why haven't you done that yet? Why didn't you get married during the show? And this is, of course, a prelude to the Borg invasion, so I'm very excited to get in to read this book. And then I have some more interesting out-of-the-box Star Trek books for me. One of them is How Much for the Planet by John M. Ford. This one I picked up exclusively because of the cover alone, and I, after getting the book, looked at some reviews for it, and it's a wacky book. It is absolutely nonsensical, and sometimes I like that in Star Trek. Sometimes I don't, but sometimes I do. So I'm interested. It's a really short book. I'll give it a go. The next book I found was the novelization of The Wrath of Khan. Now, if you've watched my channel, you know that I don't really do novelizations much, but I really enjoyed the Search for Spock novelization, which I just released, my review of that, and I also enjoyed the Undiscovered Country novelization. This novelization of Wrath of Khan, it's a much shorter novelization. Wrath of Khan is not my favorite Star Trek movie. It's not even in my top 3. I would put it at number 4. So it's kind of middle of the pack for me. But I still think it's a great movie, and I still think it's lots of fun. It's just not the best. So maybe this book will change my mind. I don't know. The other books made me appreciate those movies more. So we'll see. And I like Vonda McIntyre's adaptation style. Although that Search for Spock was written later, so she might have gotten better after reading this. So I'm intrigued by this. So that's all the mass market paperbacks for Star Trek, but I found 2 hardcovers. Both of them, excellent prices. Both of them, I was shocked to see them at this price. The first one is Imzadi. This is another Peter David book. I have a mass market paperback of this book, and I really wanted to read it. And I actually had it on my TBR. And then I was at the library, and I was going to start reading it, and I got a call into work, and I had to go to work. But it was pouring rain outside, and I put it in my bag, and I ran to work, hoping that I would keep the bag relatively dry as I ran. And unfortunately, I did not. Despite being at the bottom of the bag, the water soaked through, and the book was very much water damaged. It was theoretically possible that I could read the book, but it didn't really work. And so now I have a hardcover, and so I can read the book now, and this isn't damaged at all. What's interesting about this is that this is, there was a limited run of the hardcovers and then a big run of the mass markets. It's one of the best-selling Star Trek novels ever, one of the most highly revered Star Trek novels ever, and it was only $1.50 at McKay's, and I think that's a steal for a hardcover. I'm shocked that it went for that low, and I got it because, oh my, that's a great price. And so I'm so excited to read this because Riker and Troy are great characters of the Next Generation. And my final book of my haul is a book by J.M. Dillard called The Lost Years. I've listened to podcasts talk about this book, that it's really well revered among the fandom. I've also really enjoyed reading her adaptation of The Undiscovered Country, and so I think that J.M. Dillard has potential to be a favorite Star Trek author if I read more of her works. And so I'm really intrigued by this book idea. It is taking place after the events of the show, but before the events of the motion picture. So this is another book. This one I got for only $1. I'm surprised this book was so low. Not as much as Imzadi, which should have been way higher, but this one I would have put a little bit higher than just $1. So great book haul that I got from here. I got fantasy, I got sci-fi, I got Star Trek, I got all the books. I'm super excited. This will keep me busy for a while, but what do you think? Do any of these books sound interesting to you? Have you read any of them? What did you think of the books that you've read that I own? Please leave a comment down below. If there are books that are related to these that you think I should get, if you've gotten books recently, tell me what books you've gotten, and if you've read them, what did you think? Please leave all the comments. I love reading them. I love responding. Please subscribe to the channel, like this video, and until next time, I'm Jonathan, and thank you for watching.